mainstream media, political pundit talk shows, there's Inside the Eye Live, where we break down some of the weekly mainstream media talking points before the talking points even get aired. That is entertaining stories, weather, cats, intriguing and informative guests. And you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, The Fetch, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And today we are going to have with us our special guest, Stephen Bassett, and on the last half hour of our show, Grant Cameron will be joining us. And we've had Stephen on many times before, but I'll just kind of recap. He's the executive director of Paradigm Research Group, founded in 1996 to end a government-imposed embargo on the truth behind extraterrestrial-related phenomena. Stephen has spoken to audiences around the world about the implications of formal disclosure by world governments of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He has given over 1,000 radio and television interviews, and PRG's advocacy work has been extensively covered by national and international media. In 2013, PRG produced a citizens' hearing on disclosure at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., and recently launched an initiative seeking the first hearings on Capitol Hill since 1968 regarding the extraterrestrial presence issue. And PRG is currently working to see the ET issue included in the ongoing presidential campaign. And it seems like their efforts are working because Hillary is paying attention, and Podesta, and Obama, and Bill. I was very curious about what was out there, so I Googled all these images, and I put them on our page on Aquarian Radio. I put Hillary and UFOs, or Hillary and aliens, and Podesta, and there were just hundreds of, people making their own little funny cartoons and art renderings of Hillary with some kind of UFO over her shoulder, or some ET with her, and Podesta as well. And I'm sure if I would have had time, I could have Googled Clinton and Obama and got another 200 or 300 images. So I put some of them on AquarianRadio.com on today's show. So I invite you to go take a look at the images and have a good chuckle or two. But something's hot. Something's happening. Sasha.
Well, last week we were interviewing Grant Cameron, and I found out a lot, and also from listening to Stanton Friedman, that, one of the questions is, will Obama disclose whatever he pretends to be disclosing or discloses before Hillary does? And what I've learned from my discussion with Grant, and also from talking to Stanton Friedman, is that the government officials do lie. They're required by law to lie and to even deny that certain programs exist. But here's the good news, that whether or not something is hidden from the public on the basis of national security is ultimately and indeed up to the President of the United States. She or he decides what is in the interest of national security, which could be everything we learned from the extraterrestrials or nothing. So that's very, very important to know. The President does, and I want to run this by you, Steve. Grant says the President does have that authority. What do you think?
Are you there, Steve? Sean, did Steve make it, or are we still trying to get him on? Not yet. Okay. So Sean Bell, our producer, is doing everything he can to get Steve Bassett on, and Steve is having trouble with his Skype. So we're going to wrap for a little bit.
So anyway, one of the things that Grant will probably tell us a lot more about is that the person that's driving the disclosure and the openness in government as much as possible perspective is the campaign manager for Hillary Clinton, a fellow named Podesta, who belongs to a group named after President Madison, which is dedicated to openness in government, which I find a little bit amusing because of my studies of Madison and when he was Secretary of State for Thomas Jefferson indicated he had lots of sneaky stuff going on. But in any case, Podesta seems to be the one who's advocating for disclosure as much as possible to Hillary, and when and if she becomes president, she's going to owe him. What do you want to say about that, honey?
Well, okay, still waiting for Steve. So when we talked to Grant Cameron, it was on Tuesday, which was a couple days after Contact in the Desert, which was mind-boggling in itself. He told us that he's going to have a new book with him called the Clinton UFO Storybook, E.T. Politics in the White House. And I'll briefly read about that. And Sean, when you get Steve, let us know. Despite the Clinton UFO Storybook. Okay, despite a multitude of differing views, everyone can feel that big changes are on the horizon. Everyone sees things through their particular lens. In the media, not only in America but worldwide, news reports of extraterrestrial phenomena are on the increase. Whether you refer to them as unidentified flying objects or unidentified aerial phenomena, it matters not. The fact is, stuff is happening worldwide at an increasing speed, as if this planet is being prepared for something big, something that could radically alter the way we live our lives and the way we view existence. Grant Cameron, who has for decades dedicated himself to researching what American presidents have known about the UFO phenomenon, has reached the conclusion that presidents denying knowledge is just a cover, and that they actually have known and do know. To what end? Despite your personal view, the information on this intriguing book will validate the fact that Americans stand on a threshold and must make a choice. The President of the United States is the most powerful person in the world. 13 of them have dealt with the modern UFO phenomena. Bill and Hillary Clinton have been the most open about their handling of the mystery. Bill said he was fascinated with the subject and has talked about it many times. Hillary has said she is very interested in the UFO subject, saying she doesn't believe all the witnesses could be making it up. Hillary also went on the record as the first high-level politician to state that aliens may already be here. She has promised to disclose as many classified UFO files as she can on the subject if she becomes president. This book provides a true authoritative historical look at the Clinton UFO story. It starts with the efforts during the Clinton administration by billionaire Lawrence Rockefeller to get UFO disclosure, and the story ends talking about the box. What would you like to say, Sasha, while we stall and get Stephen online?
Well, I would like to say that, these are officials. These are government officials. And you can be sure that whatever they disclose won't be the full truth. And it will be full of misinformation to hide whatever they want to hide. But I'm talking to you people out there who have had direct experiences. Doesn't matter what these elites say or do. You know what your experience is. And many of you have been chosen as ambassadors, as go-betweens, as people who can communicate with extraterrestrials and with humanity and work out some kind of synergy between them. And we know that it's overwhelming that more and more of the experiences people have are positive, and the messages they're giving are so patently, obviously true, like stop worrying, stop polluting the environment, take care of. Jesus told us activity, women, etc. And so, when you get people, no matter how they symbol, and millions of people get the message, hey, listen, told this lots of times, maybe this is a time to do.
So I'm double checking. I hear something. Steve, are you with us yet?
I should be.
Oh, there you are.
Yay.
Wonderful. We were stalling. I hope we did okay.
Of course you did. Well,
there you are. I'm so delighted to have you back on the air with us again. We're living in extremely exciting times, and we're heading out to a conference where you and I and Sash and Grant will all hang out together at the Alien Cosmic Expo. And you were over in the UK last time we talked. Where are you now?
I'm in California.
Oh, okay. So what has happened in the last few weeks since we last spoke?
We're in a lull right now because Donald Trump won the nomination of the Republican Party early, and normally he would have immediately gone after Secretary Clinton, who was essentially free from the media for a while because she didn't have any more debates. The nomination wasn't settled, but she didn't have any more debates, so she could pretty much stand down. And I expected to hear nothing more from her or Podesta regarding the ET issue until the convention. But then Trump won the nomination early, which meant that he was going to come after her immediately, which meant she was going to have to be out there responding, going on media, responding to his attacks and what have you. However, then what happened is Trump got into trouble. He made some blunders, and as a result had to step back, and he's kind of been in damage control, and the effect of that is that Secretary Clinton is sort of back into a free roll basis where she can continue to just campaign directly and not really deal much with the media all the way through to the convention. At least that's the way it is right now. So right now we're in kind of a lull. The media coverage is falling off for now. It will come back soon. And PRG is not, stopping its efforts to get more media involved. I just got a call from ABC News yesterday and tried to deliver what they wanted. I do not know if they used it or not. Most importantly, I tried to get them to have the editor call me because they're not on the story. They still haven't figured the story out. But still, that's it. Now I've gotten a call from CNN, ABC, and ABC twice, rather. No, I'm sorry. That was NBC Universal, NBC News, ABC News, and CNN. So far, none of them have generated an actual segment, but you kind of see where it's going. So,
well, what do they say to you when they call you?
Well, CNN wanted me to
something on UFOs.
No, they wanted me to comment on something relative to the issue. In this case, Jeannie Mose was doing a segment on Hillary Clinton's comments, but she does humor segments, and I wouldn't be involved in a humor segment, so I declined. ABC called me to provide quotes for a Sunday night segment, but they didn't get to me in time. I was in London. By the time they got to me, it was closed. ABC called, and they wanted some comments, again, on Hillary Clinton's remarks, and I sent them. I also sent the producer, or this associate producer, basically probably an intern staffer, the key information behind the major story that's going on. But I could tell from him that he was oblivious, clueless. I mean, I might as well have been talking to a 12-year-old. And he wasn't going to pass anything on. But I did send them the comments that they may have chosen to use. I doubt that they did. So, again, this is the news networks. This is the cable networks. It's hard to describe them. They're really infotainment now. They're not really in the business of going after really tough news. They report what's happened. If something is a problem for the government, they're going to stay away from it most of the time. They don't dig deep, even though they're making huge sums of money. At least the hosts are. And so they're just they're not there for us. They'll cover this mass shooting in Orlando to death for days and days and days and days and days, pounding home basically nothing more than the emotional issue without really getting any context behind it. It'll be the same exact coverage that they've done for every other one of these mass shooting events and or terrorist events, with no understanding of what's generating these things. This is a massive failure on the part of television news and cable television news. I really can't understate how much damage it's doing, because the American people are getting blindsided. They don't know what's going on, and they're getting slaughtered, right, in the streets, in movie theaters, and the television news with its hundreds of millions of dollars of capability is not giving them any kind of an understanding of what is going on. This is almost criminal. And from the standpoint of journalistic ethics, it's enough to get you into hell. I mean, we're talking venal sins here. If you want to know what's going on, you've got to go to RT. You've got to go to BBC to some degree, though they're not that great. You've got to go to the Internet. You've got to go to some of the independent sites that are developing, like Intercept, Vice. But the massive news networks, they basically should just be all incorporated into some sort of Voice of America thing, paid for by government taxpayer money, and do an American rah thing. They're not worth anything, and they make fortunes. I mean, the hosts of these shows make, and I've researched it, they make virtually a minimum of $1 million, up to 10, 15, 20, and even $30 million a year to sit there and read to us the same silly nonsense.
So they're not going to rock the boat to lose that kind of income. So they're just going to, if they really get any real news, they're just going to sit on it until it's approved by the party. The party.
Well, I wouldn't say it quite that way. It amounts to that.
Well, something on that. Yeah, it amounts to that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. They're whatever Big Brother says, or whatever, however you want to symbol it. Yeah. Wow. So, go ahead. You were on a roll.
Well, that's the status there. Now we're eventually going to crack them open. I mean, we will get to them because they're not operating under state security. In other words, there aren't government agents, security agents, or military or paramilitary out in front of their buildings prepared to ward off anybody that dares to come in with a news story they don't like. They're still corporations. They're still serving the public. In many cases, they have shareholders, and ultimately, we will crack them open. But it's a marvel to watch them continue to act and conduct themselves the way they do. And occasionally I get frustrated.
The sanction is for people to stop listening to them, to stop using their services.
I agree, and I thought that would be enough. But, the cable news operations have audiences which are ridiculously small. And I thought, well, that would be enough to shock them into doing major journalism. Instead, they just decided what we'll do is we'll run tens of thousands of Viagra commercials, which are sold for, $50 a pill now or something, and they'll just pay the bills while we preach nonsense to an audience of 200,000 or 100,000. What can I say? They're coping. Let's just say they're coping to maintain their incompetence. They're doing their best.
So you said we're going to break through this. How? Do you have any ideas? Just by persevering, or what do you think will happen?
No, the print media will crack them open. The way it works is the print media will push an issue and a story to the point where the news, TV and network and cable news are so obviously in the tank, on the take, or paper bags over their head, that it becomes a huge embarrassment for the company and the stockholders. And at that point, they yield to the print journalist's lead. And we've developed tons of print so far, and more is coming. And ultimately, under the weight of the print journalism coverage, they will crack.
I like it.
So what's happening in print right now? Any stories in print?
Well, again, we're in a lull right now, and so stories about the Clinton, E.T., Rockefeller Initiative connection have have kind of dropped for a while, which is fine. You can't just run stuff over and over and over again. You run a good set of stories, and then you need some new material. You need some new breaking news. And as we're in a lull, they've backed down, and they're doing some standard ET stories, the usual stuff. But there's always stuff coming out every single day. A lot of it's overhyped. A lot of it's probably off the mark. Some of it's, hoaxes that they're not bothering to run down. But they all kind of service the same concept, which is the extraterrestrials are here, they're real, everybody's getting excited about it, so excited they're making fake film and things in order to be a part of it and join the party, and I get that. So that's kind of what you're seeing now, though there was an interesting article in the Boston Globe today, serious article by a woman named Rodriguez Nick Robbie, all right? And she wrote an article about the abduction phenomena and about the ET phenomena. He's using UFOs and aliens, the wrong words. And there was a lot of interesting stuff in that article. Of course, she also concludes that the number of sightings has fallen off, not true. She cites a lot of the research trying to explain the ET contact phenomena, the usual stuff. Sleep paralysis, the odd comment from Michael Shermer, and so forth. She's not that well informed, though she did do some reading for the article. It has some merits, about 50% meritus and 50% off the mark. But it was a substantial article. It was in the Boston Globe, and that came out today. I noted that with interest. I made some pithy comments about it as well and shared the article. So, in a way, the Boston Globe went further in terms of that story, frankly, than, say, the New York Times went with the Hillary Clinton story of about a month ago by Amy Chozick. So what you have is that the big papers, who are seeing all this other print coverage, hundreds of articles elsewhere, are slowly starting to, I guess you could say, what's the word I'm looking for? They're carefully walking around the issue and eyeballing it to see, if they can get into it or not get into it, or how could they do it without offending, the FCC or some corporate owner who could give a crap about the truth or the people they're serving, but the bottom line. And they're probing, and that's a beginning. It's not bad. I mean, I had a piece done on me in the Washington Post. It was a good piece in some ways, but it had the usual kinds of misunderstandings and inappropriate language that is almost required. Still, that's the Washington Times, Boston Globe, the Times of London did a piece. Nothing much. It was a piece. It addressed the Clinton issue briefly. And so you're seeing this slow process. Heaven help us if we need these people in a true emergency where they really need to dig deep, or somebody's going to launch a nuclear war. By the time they feel the whole thing out, we'll all be standing on a pile of radioactive ash. I mean, that's why The Intercept and Vice and ProPublica and all these other independent operations that are finding some money are so important. They've just got to get better. They've got to get stronger, better, broader, deeper, and start getting the truth to the American people, because the American people are being lied to now on such a regular basis. It's amazing they can get up in the morning, tie their shoes, go to work, and come home without falling into a manhole or passing out. From I don't know, truth deprivation. It's just awful. But the American people deserve better than that. They don't want to be lied to. You don't see referendums or polls where the American people are saying, "Oh, God lied to us more. Hide information more from us. Please don't tell us what's going on." That's not what they want. But they haven't put their foot down strong enough yet. They haven't really brought the hammer down on these media, particularly the television and cable media, and said, "You guys are just awful, and we're going to start boycotting you. We're going to start pressing for boycotts of your advertisers. We're going to make your life miserable. Yeah. You're getting too much money, right, to do really awful work." And you're so proud of yourselves because you'll do an occasional piece that seems to have intellectual substance, and you'll strut around like a peacock for months thinking, look what I've done. There are people out there that do that kind of work every single day, and they don't make a tenth or a hundredth of what you make and are considered to be fringe because, well, if you're not on TV and you don't have good makeup and hair and you're not making $4 million, how good could you be?
Sasha's question.
Oh, yeah. Well, one place that I've noticed the truth embargo seems to be operating is in terms of astronomical data. Some of the sites that I monitor had the suggestion that you have in your telescope, you have a picture, you use, first of all, a welder's glass thing so that you can filter out the infrared, and you shine it at where the sun rises or sets from all the different parts of the world, and then you report it, and this guy makes a graph of just what's happening where. And there were a whole bunch of sites that did this, and people were collecting this and getting some astronomical data. And what they found is that the chemtrails were particularly heavy at these times in the places where things that they didn't want you to see were. And all these sites are getting pulled, and there's some suggestions from some of the people that I talked to that they got calls with, you've got a nice family, don't you? It was enough to scare them. So I think that there's a big level of non-disclosure having to do with astronomical events. I just wondered what your reaction to that is.
You may want to connect your, check your connection, Sasha, because I only heard about 5% of that.
Oh, okay.
Barely coming through.
Sorry.
But Janet, you're coming through. Sasha's not.
Okay. Try that again. So anyway, Sasha was talking about there are different sites that are correlating, like, this is the information around chemtrails and how whenever there's something that the powers that be... Go ahead, try it again, Sash.
Is this working now, Steve?
It's not strong.
Okay,
No,
let me unplug and replug.
Janet's
Okay. Try
testing.
it again. Did that work?
Okay, am I working now?
Okay, let me give you my... I'll go get another headset. You take this one.
Okay, wait. She's giving me her headset.
I'll go get another
The
one.
connection
I've got
is
her
really,
headset.
really bad. The connection's pretty bad. I can call back. Let's see if we can call back and get a different router through a route through the system.
Can you hear me now on this one? We're trying. For those of you who are being patient, thank you. Thank you very much. We have some really important stuff that we're talking to, and we really would like you to consider.
Okay, we can try it again, see if it's any better.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
No, it's terrible.
It's terrible.
You may want to, all right, tell you what, why don't you call me, okay, Bassett-PRG. Sometimes that definitely
What's
improves.
that, honey? I'm not listening. Let me try
I'm
this.
not coming through in this one either very well. You've got to call Steve at the number he just told
Okay,
you. Did you hear what he said?
I'll have.
Bassett.
I'll see if Sean can call us on our cell phone. Can you hear me on this one? This headset, Steve? Okay, we're having technical problems. Sorry, everybody. We're not allowed to be talking about this. Okay. Sean, can you hear us? Keep talking, Sasha. See if it comes in better.
Okay.
Here, let me just try using the speaker on the computer. Okay.
Okay, I'm trying the speaker on the computer
Can you
now.
hear us, Steve?
No.
No. Okay. All right, we're having fun. Okay, let me try plugging this in again.
Hello?
Okay, I can hear you. Can you hear us? Steve, can you hear us? Sean, can you hear us?
Something just went ding.
Can anybody hear us? Hello. Can you hear us? All right.
We are here.
Okay, so I'm going to say call us on our cell phone. Okay. One moment here. Thank you for your patience. We are having difficulties. Are you there, Sean? Can you hear us? On our cell phone. Sean, if you can hear us, call us on our cell phone. It looks like we're still connected. Oh, I think we lost Steve Bassett completely. And now we can't find Sean. All right. I'm trying
If
to
I'm
get
on, I'll just talk.
Huh?
Is my computer?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if anybody's hearing us, but let me. I don't hear. I hear somebody. Go ahead and talk. Whoever's there, go ahead and talk. Can you hear us? Hello?
Yes, Janet, you're live still on the air. We're just trying to reconnect with Steven.
Okay,
Okay,
good.
so
Okay, we'll just talk. We didn't know if anybody could hear us.
So what I'm asking Steve, and when we get back on, we'll ask him, it's obvious that the truth embargo is extending to what's behind the chemtrails. When do they put the chemtrails out there, and specifically where do they put them out there? And some of the information that has been disappearing from the internet because it was so effective was several sites where they had people take a compass, so they had a screen of when that was, and point their telescopes with a recording camera at sunup and sundown right on the horizon. And of course what they see is Nibiru. Then this guy correlates all these things that send in and draws a chart so you can see exactly where are the chemtrails and how does the location of the chemtrails correlate with the appearance of the second sun of Nibiru. And these sites have been disappearing. People have suggested they've been threatened, and some of our informants even say they got a call saying, "You've got a nice family, don't you?" And it scared them enough so they could stop. They stopped doing this. But it's out there. If you've got a telescope and some welder's glass that will block out the infrared and a compass, you can be part of this worldwide effort on the internet to find out what's being hidden astronomically, and disclosure should be, there should pressure to let us know what is indeed happening in the skies.
Okay,
I'm back, and that sounds better.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so
now you sound better.
Where
much
were
better.
we?
Did you
Good.
get
I was
my
basically
rap about astronomical data being held back and the chemtrails, information about the chemtrails and what they're all about being a part of what's not being disclosed?
Well, they have nothing to say about the chemtrails. The government has nothing to say. They do what they do. As far as they're concerned, you're not seeing anything. In fact, it's not even worth commenting on what you may say. You could be wrong. I mean, we could be wrong about them, and they could come forward with some very detailed analysis and explanations and put it to bed. But that's not the way they work. The way they work is when we get worked up about something, they love to see us that way. They love to see us going round and round about some issue that we're not sure about. They don't want to clarify it, because if we're going round and round chasing chimeras or our own tail, then we're not bothering them. And so they literally feed this kind of they're more than happy to support confusion and lack of closure on stuff. It's venal. It's almost evil, but they thrive on it. And the worst example, of course, was the fact that they would not initiate a substantive investigation of 9/11. They put it off months and months and months, and only caved when the 9/11 victims' wives, or mostly wives, came together and did a shaming on them and just shamed them into it by gathering support on the internet through social media and some sympathetic media. And they finally caved in. I mean, I don't know how to describe this kind of behavior. It's like It's like having cancer and going to a hospital and saying, well, I need the treatment. And they say, we just don't want to treat you. Why? Because it's just we don't feel like it. And then you have to go out and launch a campaign and raise money and bake sales and get some media coverage in a local paper and shame the hospital into treating your cancer. If a hospital did that, it would be closed pretty soon. They'd have 1,000 pickets out in front of it. People couldn't even get to their cars. But the government does it all the time, and the people accept it. Well, the 911 wives didn't. They pushed, and they finally got an investigation. It wasn't a solid investigation. It had major flaws. But, they figure, okay, we're going to do an investigation, but don't expect something good. Don't expect to spend a lot of money on it because, we need to save our money because we have more wars we're going to fight. I mean, it's really hard not to think, and I am not really someone who's striving to be cynical, striving to look for evil, but it is hard not to find it with government behavior now. It's just reeking of it. It's dripping it. And the people in it, I don't know if they're aware of that or whether that they are fully aware of it and they thrive on it. It's really hard to say, but it's rather pathetic.
Yeah. We were talking to Grant, and he said that you and he have had some conversations around the information he's discovered. Do you have anything that you want to share
Clintons,
about his new book and his take on this whole thing?
Are you talking about Grant?
Yes. Grant was on the other day with us.
And the involvement of the Clintons.
And the involvement with the Clintons and his book that he's writing. And he said on the show, I've talked to Steve about this a number of times, and he's listening right now. I'm going to be joining us on the last half hour of the show. And I just wondered what you thought about some of the theories that he presented. Well, you didn't listen to the show.
Okay. Especially the one about how much power the authority, the president actually has to determine whether information is released or not.
Whether the chairman could what?
Whether the president is the ultimate authority that decides what's in the interest of national security and what can be made available to the public that doesn't threaten national security.
I understood about half of that. We just got a bad Skype connection, fellas, ladies rather, and gentlemen. We're going to have to shift to the cell phone. So what I need to do... I can
hear you, but you can't hear Sasha. Can you hear me?
Both of you, there may be a problem with your interconnect connection on that end. It's jammed up. You got a lot of usage on it, but it's got no capacity. I just can't hear you.
Can't hear us.
So
okay.
We need to shift to the cell phone, which means that I need to just go to the car real quick and get my earphones, because I don't put this cell phone next to my head because, in case you're wondering, it causes brain cancer. The government will get around to telling us that after we all have brain cancer, because that's the way it rolls. Okay, look, I'm going to turn off now. Give me about 3 minutes to get on the cell phone and give me a call.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Sean, you've got the number. Thank you.
People who are listening to our albeit fuzzy projections here, we'd like to say that we believe in candor. We advocate government telling the truth. We are not interested in being punitive, although we know that those who control the government have murdered millions abroad, and they murdered the people that were in the Twin Towers. And we're not advocating that they eye for an eye, because, of course, the world would be blind if it was eye for an eye. But we are advocating truth and reconciliation and the barring from any kind of position of authority of criminals like Rumsfeld, Cheney, and of course Bush. We know that they have murdered millions, and that this pernicious system of even if they don't disclose who did what, you have to know that the government murders people, assassinates people, he has agent provocateurs, threatens people, and they are into protecting their own selves, and as long as they feel so threatened by the truth that they were all accomplices to murder, and many of them are knowing that, there's going to be a cover-up. So our only hope of finding out what's happening is something where we don't hang them all, but that we somehow, among the ancient Zuni ancestors, if somebody betrayed, say, the Zuni to the Navajo, and they found out this guy's a traitor, they didn't kill that person. They didn't do anything to them. They just ignored them. And even though Coventry's in England, that's where they sent the traitor Hopis out to. They sent them out to Coventry, so to speak.
I think I hear Stephen. Are you back? Or is that Sean? I hear somebody breathing. Okay, they're not back yet. So, yeah, there's something to be said about the Botany Bay colonies, but I'm not sure how this is all going to pan out. It's very interesting. We're living in interesting times.
Yeah, I find the debate that Hillary and Bernie had about Henry Kissinger to be fascinating, because Henry Kissinger has been identified by Corey Goode and others as representing the reptilian faction of the Illuminati that's been controlling the planet. And I totally resonate with Bernie saying, I think this person is a war criminal. I think that he's engaged in behavior that caused the death of millions of people. I wouldn't be proud of him being my friend, and yet Hillary is. And that's really something, and the public seems to be faced with this terrible decision. Do you want Hillary, who wants more war, she's a hawk, or do you want Trump, who's got a trumped up ego and he hates Ladino people? There are choices like Andy Basiago, who you probably never heard of, but he's a guy that's basing his campaign on candor, telling the truth as much as you possibly can, short of threatening our national security. And even though it's a futile gesture, like Cervantes' character tilting at windmills, I'm voting for Andy Basiago, and I'm proud of it.
Well, I think people need to vote from their hearts and not just because it's the lesser of two evils. And this is going to be a very interesting election. So I like what's going on with this potential disclosure. So I'm voting for disclosure. And I'm not sure what that means at this point. I don't know until I get there. But I know I'm voting for disclosure. I'm voting for this new paradigm of existence because I'm tired of people. There's 100,000 of us are murdered every day because there are already cures for diseases, cures for aging, and safer transportation systems. And we're dying all the time from, car crashes and all kinds of things, and plane crashes. And pharmaceuticals that are very poisonous and toxic and dangerous, and they don't kill us, they make us sick, and then we're, unable to take care of ourselves. This population is aging, and anyway, it's pretty hideous. You look at it, and it's like, bring on the potential. I don't know if disclosure is going to be like a magic wand and all this stuff comes, but at least on a previous interview, when we talked to Steve, and I hope he gets back soon, he felt it was going to be like a cascade of information. And go hear us now.
Oh, yeah. I can see you much better.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay,
what was the question?
The question,
we forgot.
Well, one of the interesting things at the Contact in the Desert, where they said, what do you imagine the day after disclosure, if it ever occurs, would be like? And so I'd like to put that one to you.
Well, a wonderful, interesting question I've been asked hundreds of times.
Hundreds of times, hundreds and thousands of times.
The day after disclosure,
go ahead.
Very much. The day after disclosure would be very much like the day before disclosure, but different. I often say that everything will change and nothing will change. Everyone will have the same job, the same family, the same problems, the same bank account, and you'll have to go back to life. Now, if they do disclosure on a Friday night, they'll have the weekend to chill out. maybe knock down a few beers, right? Take a Xanax, whatever. And just contemplate it, right, as you prepare to go back to work on Monday. The press will be quickly in a frenzy. I mean, they'll already have been in a frenzy leading up to. They'll take it up a couple more notches. I mean, they'll just be in a state that we've probably never really quite seen it before. They may hit their peak frenzy or set their press frenzy record. And they will have thousands of questions that they want to ask a whole lot of different people, and obviously you just can't do that all at once. And so the press will take the center stage for a while, and the public will sit back in front of their televisions and they'll watch and listen. There'll be plenty of that. They may make comments to articles that are written about it, about what's happening, what's going down. That's fine. But they're not going to make immediate changes in their life. Some people who have thought about this well in advance may very well have some plans that they would institute almost right away, meaning the day after disclosure. Very possible, but there'd be very few in numbers. But the changes in the impact from the event will pretty much be like a tsunami, ocean tsunami. It'll start out as an imperceptible wave that will start moving out 163 degrees around this event, heading in every direction. And people will sort of feel the wave pass underneath them. And they'll note that that's interesting, and they'll feel another one come underneath them, and they'll note that, and they'll go, okay. And then these waves will start approaching the shores of human society. I guess you could say the societal coast, business, politics, theosophy, science and what have you. And but as these changes approach the shore, as these waves approach the shores, they will then grow in size and hit with mighty force. And that'll take a while, but hit they will, and then those institutions are going to have to make some adjustments. Meanwhile, the public will be deciding what it wants to do. And that's where PRG will come in. We're going to hopefully be involved in that process of the public engaging the issue. We know that the military and the intelligence people will engage it. We know the major corporations and government contractors will engage it. The question is, will the people engage? Well, that's where PRG comes in, to help make that happen. So It'll kind of be like that. Most of the time will be spent watching television. I mean, people will be glued to their television sets, day in and day out. And it'll be a positive thing. Unlike the latest massacre in Orlando, it's all negative. And people will watch it and watch it and watch it and become increasingly disturbed and paranoid. The media will be happy to serve that. They will serve it up for days. Without understanding, without background, without vision. Because it sells and makes them money. And journalism is really not what they're in anymore. They're in the entertainment money-making business. But
do you think they'll bring out any ETs? Do you think that they'll bring out any ETs? Will they bring out any extraterrestrials that may have been working alongside the military, or think they'll do anything on that level, like set some ETs free that might be?
What they reveal and when they choose to reveal it will be the big questions of that period. No question. There's no question. The media is going to pressure them. The people are going to pressure them. And I can't say, certainly with any, even near certainty, what they're going to do first, what they're going to reveal. They have their own plan. They've had decades to plan it. I think they know what they want to do. I think they know how they want to approach this. I think they have to start from scratch. But I don't know. I'm sure we're going to learn some things. I'm going to say, I can't believe that's true. And then we're going to learn some things that we're going to go, I can't believe that was false. Right?
Right.
And that's not going to surprise me.
So I keep envisioning that maybe the extraterrestrials themselves may say, okay, at last they revealed things now we can come for. It's probably just a fantasy, but maybe it's real. What do you think of that possible scenario, that ETs themselves, now that we've taken the lid off it, might start
I've always leaned toward. I've always felt that was a logical outcome. That
right.
A formal contact event, something in the open, carefully done to avoid problems, would take place not that long after disclosure. I like 2 years. 2 years sounds right, but I'm just guessing. I have no idea. It could be 1 year. It could be 1,000 years. But I'm going with 2 years. And
so within 2 years, they might do something, reveal themselves.
I think that is where this has always been heading.
I had a very interesting series of dreams in February where they came down and revealed themselves. I was in Phoenix, and they came down into Phoenix and revealed themselves. And what they did was they opened our memories to who we are as eternal beings. And they allowed us to remember who we are all the way to source. So we stopped hating each other because we realized that we were all connected. And this was all some grand experiment. It was very interesting. I was like puzzled because it's, it just didn't end at one night. It picked up again like the next night. So I pay attention to those when I have them consecutively like that. But I can't prove anything. It was just very profound.
Sounds like what the Dalai Lama always says.
What's the Dalai Lama say?
We'll live with love, and we will stop warring. And I like Bernie's idea. We will stop the idea that corporations have privacy that shields them from revealing their criminal acts.
So we're coming up on a break. We have a couple minutes before we go to the break, which will be about 3 minutes.
Yeah, how can people help PRG? Is there anything that the listening audience could do that would assist in this pressuring for disclosure?
And if you go to ParadigmResearchGroup.org, there is the political initiative link, and there are hundreds of articles there, recent articles, about this unfolding political story. Many of the comment sections are still alive, still functional, so you may want to place positive comments, constructive comments for the editors and the reporter to read. Nothing wrong with that. Comment sections are important. I mean, they're going through I don't know what phase, an adolescent phase. Mm-hmm. But I think the quality will improve over time. There's obviously a donation link on the top of the page, ParadigmResearchGroup.org, and we need about another $9,000 to $10,000 to lock in operating in DC through the end of the year. So that's where I'm focusing my efforts right now, trying to raise that to $12,000 or so. And that's kind of it, really. I mean, what can the average person do? It's not easy. I mean, they can support the research in various ways. They can support authors. They can buy your books. They can do that.
Okay, we'll be back in about 3 minutes.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Tune in Tuesdays at 12 noon Eastern on Studio A to hear Tammy Adams share her knowledge of an unknown realm on Talking with Your Angels. Join Tammy as she uncovers hidden secrets about the spiritual world of angels, ghosts, and other entities that have been with us longer than we know. Tammy is a psychic, a teacher, spiritual coach, a leader in her field, and will be sharing her information and stories with you. So join us on Tuesdays at noon on Studio A. With Tammy's guidance, you'll find out who has been watching over you from the other side, and soon you will be talking with your angels.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and FreedomSlips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, FreedomSlips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio with your hosts Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin and our guest Stephen Bassett, and later on this hour, second part of this hour, Grant Cameron. And before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on www.freedomslips.com. Please make your donation today, 5, 10, 15, 20, whatever you can afford is greatly appreciated, and we do thank you very much for your donation. Sasha, what would you like to say before we bring back Steve?
Oh, I just like to quote the Kingston Trio that we can be proud, for man has invented a mushroom-shaped cloud. Unless we're wise, some sunny day, someone will push the button, and we will all be blown away.
So, yeah, that's not very enlightening. So, Stephen, where would you like to take this show in the second hour? What would you like to say to our listeners who are here today? Hi, Steve, are you there? Stephen Bassett. Did we lose you again? No, it looks like you're there. Sean, can you hear us? Are we having difficulties again? Okay, so Stephen, can you hear us? I don't know where he is. Okay, and we are live. Of course, we're live, and we're floundering, trying to find our guest. Maybe you want to, Sean, do you want to try to call him back? I don't know if he can hear us or something.
Well, we're waiting. The rest of the Kingston Trio thing is they're rioting in Africa. There's trouble in Spain. There's hurricanes in Florida, and Texas needs rain. The whole world is festering with problems galore, and I don't like anyone anymore.
And don't ask him to sing it. You don't want to hear that. Okay, now, Steve, are you back? Did you take a break? Are you still out there? We don't know if you can hear or not. So, how about Sean? Maybe, did he call you or did you call him? Hi, Steve, are you there? I think I can. Nope. Anyway, we're having a lot of problems. Steve, can you hear us? I know I'm trying to get Steve back on. Okay, what else would you like to talk about while we're working on this? Okay. Well, the second hour of this second half of this hour, we're going to have Grant Cameron. And Grant Cameron is recipient of the Leeds Conference International Researcher of the Year and the UFO Congress Researcher of the Year awards. He became involved in ufology as the Vietnam War ended in May of '75 with personal sightings of a UFO-type object, which locally became known as Charlie Red Star. And this story has been optioned for a movie. These sightings led to a decade of research into the early work done by the Canadian government into the flying saucer phenomenon. Cameron became the authority on the government program and will B. Smith, who headed it up. From here, Cameron proceeded to do almost 3 decades of research into the role of the President of the United States in the UFO mystery. He is one of the foremost authorities on Hillary and Bill Clinton and their UFO connection, and most of that research can be found at the President's UFO site, presidentialufo.com. That's very tiny print. All right, Steve, are you back? I hear something. Okay. So, Sean, if it's possible, maybe you could hang up and reconnect with him. Oh, there he is. Aloha. Are you there? Hello, Stephen Bassett. Okay, maybe, Sean, if you want to call him back, you have his number. See if we can get him. There we go. That sounds good. Okay. So, after experiencing a mental download event on February 26, 2012, Cameron turned his research interest away from nuts and bolts research to the world consciousness and UFO phenomena. And we are calling back Stephen Bassett. And this new research has expanded out to the possible involvement of extraterrestrials in modern music and in the phenomenon of inspirations. Oh, right. Hi, Steve. We've got you back. Okay.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you had a question about Grant, I think, and some of his statements.
Yeah, he's going to be coming on in about 25 minutes, and he said on our last show that you and he have had some interesting conversations, and so wondered. Go ahead, or you can talk about whatever you want to talk about. But that was something I suggested on the table to discuss.
Grant's great contribution is he pursued the presidential connection for years, and ultimately got the documents that confirmed the Rockefeller Initiative. Under the Clinton administration, 93 to 96, those documents allowed us to stick with that issue, regardless of how much the media was going to stonewall it, and always have a platform. It took 15 more years to finally break those documents into significant print media coverage, but we've done it. There's more to come. Everybody has a different take on disclosure, probability it could happen now, what it would be like, and any one of them could be right. Most of them are probably a little bit right and a little bit wrong. I didn't hear Grant's exact comments, but surely here on the same page. Governments will have to reveal information. They'll do it in such a way as to look as good as possible. They'll emphasize positive information initially and get to the negative information later, unless they take a radical departure from their usual modality. So, I don't know all the specifics about Grant's views, but we're generally on the same page. Richard Dolan.
I can tell you, when it was something that you really seem to differ on, is how much authority the President of the United States actually has, and how much it's the truth embargo is being run by parts of the government that are beyond the President's control. And I think Grant made a very strong case that the President does indeed have the ability to release material or withhold it. That is pretty powerful.
Wait, but you're saying that Grant does have that power.
Go ahead.
So Grant's saying that the President does indeed have the power to release things as not being critical to, or withhold them as being critical to national security.
Well, he's right. The President does have the power to do that. The President has the power to release classified information. The President is the commander-in-chief of the American military and intelligence systems. And he has the right to conduct that pretty much any way he wants to. I mean, if he acts in a way that is clearly not in the interest of national security, then the Congress can impeach him. Mm-hmm. But that's not the way things work now. The presidents have been sidelined. They don't have access to the information. And if without access into the information, they can't really do anything. They can't act, even though they may have the power to do so. It's not going to be easy to change that, but it is going to need to be changed. I mean, the abuses of the CIA, the NSA, have to finally be brought to heel. We haven't done it yet. We wait for some huge revelation, and we get all worked up, and then we move on. We forget about it. The American people are being walked, maybe goose-stepped in a way, into a national security state, and they're like lemmings. They're just following along. There are a few that are resisting, but not a lot. And people have easily led that way. Governments have been doing it forever. However, we have more information available to us today than any people in history. We have more ability to connect, to form groups, coalitions, to act collectively. We have more of that than ever. We're not using it enough. We still haven't. It's like someone being handed $1 million and not spending it. They're just putting it in a box and sticking it under the bed. But we do have that power. But right now, the president is a very weak office. The president's a weak office. Now, people think it's a strong. It's not. It's a weak one. They get all upset about presidential directives and how that's an abuse of power. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's not a sign of strength. So we have a weak presidency that is kept out of a lot of major issues and not on a need-to-know basis. This includes the Congress. Meanwhile, of course, the President and the Congress can come under relentless attacks from their enemies, from the opposition parties and so forth, at will, which they then involve more and more of their time defending themselves against. When they're really major stuff, they really can't do much about. That, of course, is a recipe for disaster. And one of the reasons why it's very dangerous is the American people don't understand it. They've been led to believe the opposite is true. That's like telling somebody who's deathly ill they're perfectly healthy. That's not going to improve the prospects of them getting healthy again, is it? Mm-hmm. And so the situation is not good. The Orlando shooting is nothing. There's worse coming. This guy was not even a formal operator. He's another homegrown terrorist. There's more of that. But the formal dudes haven't even gone into business yet. And the media will cover every shooting endlessly without really educating the public in any way. It'll all be titillation, drama, hype, emotion, no thought. American people will watch it relentlessly today. The ratings will go up. The networks will make money until the next one. This is obvious. I mean, any 16-year-old kid who's taken some decent courses and read a few books on communications and media could see this. We're just potted plants sitting here waiting to be sprinkled every once in a while with a bucket full of tragedy. And it's going to get a lot worse. This is why disclosure, this game-changing, paradigm-shifting event, must take place as soon as possible in order to wake us up. And I can tell you not enough people are getting behind it. The number of people getting behind it are a tiny fraction of those that know it's important. They're still suffering from truth embargo syndrome. They're still thinking they're afraid when they shouldn't have to be, but they're powerless when they have power. And so the support is not there. I'm not saying there isn't some, there is, but is it enough? It is not. And we're risking not getting disclosure done in time before something 1,000 times bigger than Orlando takes place, or San Bernardino. Trust me, we're just at the beginning of the age of terrorism, which we spent decades crafting through one abysmal, asinine, destructive policy after another. In your personal life, if you make one awful decision after another, you know what happens? You end up sitting on a street corner somewhere with a little cardboard sign saying, "I'm homeless, can you give me change?" That's what's happened to people. Governments, on the other hand, can make these mistakes over and over again
And by abuse of power, massive taxation, whatever, deficit spending, they can keep themselves going, literally, like Wile E. Coyote, who's walking on thin air because he left the cliff long ago, and as long as he doesn't look down, he doesn't fall. That's our government now. One day it's going to look down, and that's it. It's going to fall straight down to the valley. It's not good. And so the activists are doing their best to try to turn the situation around, try to wake people up. But they're not superheroes. We don't have ultimate power. If people don't get behind this, then they will reap the rewards of their non-involvement.
So we're coming up on this conference, and Saturday is at the Alien Cosmic Expo is another ET disclosure hearing. And you had your other disclosure hearings in 2013, made all those incredible DVDs, and then you distributed them. Was there any kind of observable effects of that distribution of all those DVDs?
Well, the observable effect is that we launched the Congressional Hearing Political Initiative in November and generated hundreds and hundreds of articles about one of the key areas of testimony, which is the Rockefeller Initiative and its connection to the Clintons. I've also raised some awareness of the nuclear weapons tampering, but that's a little harder. It doesn't have the sex appeal for the media. Why, I don't know. Nuclear weapons tampering by ET craft is not sexy enough for our media. Well, that's their heart. But no,
just save the world. That's all.
Yeah, Rockefeller Initiative is a different matter. So no, that's moving along fine, and I'm happy with that. Now, what's coming up on the 25th, 26th in Brantford, outside of Toronto? It's not a hearing, really. It's a reverse. No, what is it? It's really a formalized press conference. It's kind of an interesting idea. Instead of, well, what we've done is certain press, a specific group of press, not many, have been invited to come and interview witnesses. Okay? And so, as near as I can tell, the press are going to be up on the podium or up on the stage, like in the congressional hearing or congressional hearing, and the people that they want to interview are going to be presenting to them like they were a member of Congress. So it's a press hearing in a way, but there's really nothing like that. It's really unusual. Normal, and I think that's the way it's going to be. The press are going to be in the top table, and we're going to be answering their questions from the front. Maybe they'll be on a stage and we'll be down on the floor, and maybe we'll be at the same level. Now, I'm not sure what the hell this is. I guess you could say it's a press hearing. It's a hybrid. It's a new form. I like the idea. It's not bad. And so it's very organized. The press is going to have a lot of time to ask the questions they want to answer. It's not going to be that kind of chaotic thing you get with the press. The press is going to be elevated. It has a more prestigious role here. And in return, we're hoping they'll take a far more serious take. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be filmed, of course. And, Toronto's a great city. Brantford's not that far outside of it. I would invite people from anywhere in the world to come to this one. Being in Toronto in June, not a bad idea. It's going to generate, I think, some powerful stuff. And there's also going to be some presentations. I'm giving a 1-hour presentation. I think it's on Sunday. It's going to be pretty dense and pretty harsh. Not harsh, but hard. It's going to be to the point. And I know Grant is presenting, Richard Dolan, Victor Vigiani, Paul Hellyer will be involved. And then there's another conference going on as well, in which some of these more esoteric areas or people kind of enjoy and like they got some speakers for that too. So it's an interesting 3-day weekend. I encourage people to come. I think they're gonna see something different. They're gonna hear something different. And
they're going to get a chance to see real radio type journalism with journalists that aren't beholden to corporations that sell ads.
Well, I think there's some independents. There's also a couple of corporate journalists there, meaning they work for companies that are owned by corporations. But, I know Victor went to some length to try to get the people that are not biased, objective. And I hope they'll ask anything they want. I'm prepared to answer any question they have, and I imagine Grant is, and so is Richard Dolan. And maybe we'll see some meaningful engagement there, meaningful information, and we'll see the press may be impressed by what they hear. I know that the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure Committee people were. It's easy to lose sight of the fact that, one, the issue is true. We're not in the process of trying to determine whether it's true. We're in the process of just informing people about the truth. That's a different thing. And secondly, there are plenty of people in the U.S. government, and the Canadian government, and the Canadian intelligence services. They're well aware of the extraterrestrial presence. They're just not in a position to speak about it, right? There are people in the media that know about it, but they're not prepared to speak to it, at least not on their own, and they're limited to what they can do in their job. This is the nature of things, right?
Yeah, we heard that if somebody in the press corps that gets to interview the president asked a question that wasn't pre-approved, they didn't get invited back.
That's kind of the way it is.
Like that. Mm-hmm.
That's right. And in order to get that to change, you need to change it in the press room, because in the press room, the press briefing room in the West Wing, if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 reporters starting to ask about an issue, which is what's starting to happen. Mark Knoller asked a question of Josh Earnest. Andrea Mitchell asked a question. People Ryan asked a question. When enough of them do, you can't take all their press credentials away. It's pretty obvious what's going on then, and so they're running out of room to dodge this. They're running out of room to pretend it's not real or what have you. Their time is almost over. But again, let me repeat, there were plenty of people inside media, inside television corporations, inside the Congress, inside the Air Force and the Central Intelligence Agency, inside the presidential staff that know that ET presence is real. But they will not speak about it because the embargo has established the state conditions, but they won't. And one of the number one, there are various ways that you create that through intimidation, coercion, peer pressure, and ridicule factor. And to give you the most perfect analogy to that, and forgive me, because some people say you're not allowed to do this. Well, I disagree. Well, I'm not saying you're not allowed to do it. I think you need to be careful how you do it. The point is, in the mid-1930s, if you were a German citizen in Berlin, and you were with a group of people, and one of those people in the group made a nasty, awful joke about Jews, you had better laugh. Even if it offended you, even if you knew it wasn't true, even if it hated the idea, if you were in that group, you had better laugh, or you were going to have a problem. Well, that's what the truth embargo did in this country. Different issue, the circumstances are not quite the same. Initial punishment, maybe not as harsh. It's the same damn thing. And the American people and the Canadian people need to decide if that's the kind of society they want. If they want governments to lie and embargo information and intimidate and coerce and create ridicule and laughter so that you have to go along with peers about stuff that you know is wrong. If that's the kind of society you want, then don't do anything. Don't donate, don't contribute, don't speak out. Just sit there, because that society is heading for you like a freight train.
Wow. Well,
should I say what I really think?
Yes, Sam. I love it. You're right on, Steve. Mario Stavio moves within.
One of the reasons that I'm speaking strongly today, Pastor Janet, is because of Orlando. I've been telling people over and over and over again the results of our policies in Iraq and a lot of other policies have put us in an unrecoverable position, and the inevitable is going to happen. This is going to get worse and worse and worse, and we don't have a lot of options as citizens to stop it. Because when you look at the people that are being elected, if you look at what they're saying, if you look at the actions of the Congress, they're not changing anything. They're doing exactly the same that they've done decade after decade after decade, thinking that, of course, they'll get a different outcome, which means they're all insane, based on that somewhat iconic explanation. And so what are we going to do? Well, we have a chance. We have something. We're lucky, very fortunate we do. We have a chance to end this truth embargo on the ET issue and get the announcement from the heads of state and lay the groundwork for open contact, possibly. We have a chance to do that. It's right at our fingertips. But, it's still, the support's not there.
I mean, this is crisis time.
15,000 people. I've got 15,000 people on my email list, actually. And I have sent a number of requests to them. We need funding now in order to drive the Washington process. 70 good people out of that 15,000 have contributed some money. $5 or $10 or $20, sometimes $100, sometimes $200. That's nice. That's 70 people out of 15,000. And these people are on the list because they're interested in the issue. They're aware of the issue. That list has been pared down over the last 6 years. Thousands of people that really weren't that interested are all gone. The ones that don't like what I do, they unsubscribe. And yet out of that 15,000, only 70 think, no, I can put a few dollars into this. And there are people on that list worth millions. So what do you do? I don't know. Ultimately, the people, they ultimately determine the outcome in a way. Because if they don't support the fundamental activism and the advocacy processes, most of them fail. And then they reap the consequences of that. I'll be in Canada. I'll be speaking to nice people up there. The most of the funding I got toward this work came from a Canadian. He'll probably be at the conference. And he gave money to other people, too. He's given a couple $1 million into this deal, and he's tapped out. He's got a wife and a child, and he can't do it. There aren't 10 more Canadians with the same kind of vision as this gentleman? What do they think? They're going to sit up there? They got a great life, great society, love the place, love the people, and not support this kind of work and see the United States collapse underneath them, and they think Canada's going to be okay? They think that the terrorist that's going to finally invade us at great length is going to ultimately always avoid them? It's not going to head up north? What do they think? They better wake up. The world's connected now. What the United States does affects everybody. Yeah,
there you go.
Well, I just basically, if the murderers feel threatened enough, they can get in martial law with a false flag or an actual event, and it's hello FEMA.
Yeah. So, then hello revolution.
So I think it's really very, very important, even for the Illuminati, to save their own asses and come clean as much as they can without threatening, really threatening national security. Ultimately, national security is based on cooperation, not on war.
National security is fundamentally a matter of great policies designed to minimize conflict and support people as opposed to killing them. Ultimately, that's real national security. But that's a new concept. That's a new paradigm concept that the dinosaurs that we keep electing to run us don't get, right? And I don't know what the Illuminati are coming for. I'm talking about the good people, the people out there that know where we need to go, know what needs to be done. And I admit that most of the time they're going, I just don't know how we can change it. Now they've got something, they have the biggest change in history. The biggest paradigm change in all of history is potentially within our reach, and they're going, well, I just don't know. And I assure you, when the terrorist nuclear event finally takes place, disclosure will disappear for I don't know how long. It may be decades. It probably will not happen in my lifetime. And everything that happens after that, they can ask themselves, why did I do something? They're not being asked to march in the street or put their heads at the risk of being smacked with police batons or sprayed in the face with mace. This isn't that kind of advocacy movement. They're simply asked to support the effort to crack this open through media engagement. And PRG's been at it for 20 years, and it's making great progress. But 70 people out of 15,000 think it's worth $5.
So where would you go next? Where are you going next? You're in California. If you have the money, people donate it and dug deep right now. Went up there and press that donate.
I had to leave Washington. Because I couldn't pay the bills. I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't pay the bills.
Pay the bills.
So for the last month, I'm living with supporters. I'm staying with supporters or other cheap places because I can't afford to be in Washington right now. Funds ran out. Now, can I do work from anywhere? Absolutely. I've got a computer. I've got contacts to media all over the world. I can generate articles, but I'm not available to go down to CNN, for an in studio interview, and I'm not able to get up on the Hill for more meetings.
Those media.
I'm not going to pitch a tent on. Yeah, go ahead.
They're going to finance you when you get hot because you've got the facts, you've done the research. They're going to. It's nothing for them to fly you back in when they really need you, and they will need you.
What do you mean? You mean after disclosure?
I mean, as it gets right on the tip of disclosure, where it's when they start to disclose their half disclosures.
It's not going to get on the tip of disclosure unless we keep driving the media into this process. Unless we continue the political ethics commission, we're not going to get there.
I agree.
It's a paradox. We got to drive this process until we get the job done. And I'm saying that while one could make the case, well, be patient. People will come around. That's probably true, except we have a problem. Let me restate it.
Go ahead, state it, and then here comes Grant. Go ahead. 40
years of awful, venal, destructive policies on the part of the United States and the UK and the Soviet Union and Russia, right, have created a situation where all holy hell is about to break loose. And we are the number one target. Nuclear terrorism. And there was just an article in the Daily Mail 2 days ago. I'm going to start posting. I have a chronology of articles I'm going to put up, which is going to make it pretty clear that they've been hinting this is coming for about 10 years. But the government's not going to do a major, major effort to educate the public to this because they don't want to upset us. In other words, there'll be a nuclear event, but why should you be upset? Now, why just enjoy your life? Max out your credit card. That's not government. I don't know what that is. Certainly not government. Hell, the organized crime operates better than that. I don't know what to describe it. Incompetence, malfeasance, laziness, narcissistic self-focus, money grubbing. It's a lot of things, but it sure as hell isn't governance. And so what I'm saying is that we are running out of time. Orlando is nothing. What is coming is 1,000 times worse than that. People, wake up.
Okay, with that note, let's set Grant in here. Hi, Grant. I hear you breathing. Are you there?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm a lot more optimistic than you people are tonight. I'll tell you that. I never thought I'd say I'm more optimistic than Steve Bassett, but I am.
Well, good. That's all right. You're entirely more optimistic.
I was going to come on here and I'd say give Steve credit. I thought you had this thing off the cliff. I thought it was almost there. It was like we had these 3 questions in the White House press room.
Yeah.
And the attitude had completely changed because the last time a question had been asked in the White House press room on this subject was 1997 when Webster Hubbell his book came out. And that was Deborah Orrin, who said, I waited for someone to follow up, and they all rolled over and played dead, and nobody would follow up. Before that, it was January of 1954 when Eisenhower took a question. And on the 11th of May, and then on the 16th of May, we had 3 questions asked. And I actually got a message through to this African-American reporter. And you remember how she ended it. She said, you're doing the dance. You're doing the dance. You're trying to figure out what you're going to say. And she said, you're not going to get away with this. And to me, it was like, wow, Steve's going to win this thing. This is going over the cliff, because the attitude in the White House press room has changed. It's no longer little green man, laugh, laugh, laugh. They have gotten the sense that there is a story, that there is something to this, and the attitude has completely changed. You can tell by those 3 questions, they were basically saying, give us the deal. And then you have the Ernest, who actually turns the president in. He said, I don't have a tab in my briefing book for this. But the president has made jokes indicating that his job gives him the knowledge of this subject. Why don't you ask him? It should be interesting. And I thought, wow, here we go. So I contacted this African-American reporter, and I said, ask him the briefing question. Don't ask any other question. Ask him the briefing question. Ask Obama, have you been briefed on this subject? And then watch him squirm and hesitate and whatever, and you're going to see a lot more reporters suddenly go, holy, this is for real. And the only thing that has saved us is that Obama has not had a news conference. So I'm waiting for Obama to have a news conference to see whether one of these 3 reporters picks up this question. To me, I think this is basically almost over. I mean, it's at the edge of the cliff.
Well, here's you're on one level, you're right, Brent. You're right. We made tremendous progress, and I'm very optimistic we can finish the deal, okay? And so, in that sense, you're right. However, we do have a time problem here, and things have slowed down. What's happened? I ran out of money. Okay, that's one thing. 2, Hillary cinches the nomination. Now she can bunker up for a while. 3, Trump got the nomination. He doesn't know an ET from a soccer player. He doesn't know a UFO from a Boston cream pie. So the Stonewall is probably improving a little bit. However, I'm still working with now 25 reporters. I've got stuff in the works. I'm limited a little bit because I'm out of money, but still, okay. The reason that I'm negative today is Orlando, Grant.
Yeah.
The worst mass shooting in American history. Clearly an ISIS supporter, a homegrown terrorist. The formal ISIS guys haven't even attacked us yet here. And so it's just a reminder that at any day now, tomorrow, if they unleash a dirty bomb in downtown Washington, I assure you there won't be any more questions to Josh Earnest about the Clinton-Rockefeller connection, Rockefeller-Mission connection. It's over. And then you're going to have to deal with a response from the United States on this. And the basic response from the United States to anything is we're going to drop lots of bombs on somebody. And so it's all going to go downhill very fast. So what I'm upset about is not that we haven't made great progress, not that we can't finish the deal, in a certain length of time, sooner if we get a lot of support, later if we don't. It's just that we're running out of time. That's just the way it is. It's like the guy on death row who's completely innocent. He's completely innocent. He's been up there for 15 years, and he's got a good attorney, a new attorney, and the Innocence Project jumped in, and they're giving him these briefings and saying, we're making progress. We got the press involved. We've got a letter into the governor, and he looked at them and says, I'm happy, but I am scheduled to die tomorrow night, don't you? Time is a factor. Time is powerful, right? The American people keep waiting for some Messiah to show up. They keep giving the government more time. that negates the progress that the activists made. We are not superheroes. We are not gods. We do our work to do the best we can, but if we do not get timely support, we do fail. And so your optimism and excitement about what happened in that press room is appropriate. But will there be another question? Now, I'm in a position, it's harder for me to get us that next question, right? I raised 40-some thousand, and that got me 18 months in Washington. Now I'm broke. I'm trying to raise more. Where's it coming from? It's not coming.
Oh, have you talked? Okay, have you talked to these White House people, the people that can actually interact with the president? Because that's the problem: is the president has never been asked the question. He's never interacted. We've always been dealing with some lower level guy who doesn't know what's going on, or has got plausible deniability. I mean, we've got it right at the most powerful guy in the world. We got three reporters these three reporters, no doubt in my mind, realize they've been had. They realize this is for real. And so the questions that they put were, what's the deal here? Is this true? And the same as when Podesta goes on CNN and Tapper starts asking him, I mean, are there actually aliens coming? And then Podesta stonewalls. I mean, he's got to be thinking like, wow, I mean, this is not Little Green Men anymore.
Podesta knows he's got pressure. He also knows they've got the nomination now. But of course, after the convention, they're going to have to start exposing themselves to more press. He's calculating just like I am. He's seeing that things have swung in their favor for a while. But let me mention that if you go to Facts on Washington, you'll see the Twitter handles for most of the White House correspondence team. I sent them all links, every single one of them. I sent them several messages, one of which all of you need to support April Ryan and Andrea Mitchell.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't heard from any of them, but I'm contacting them all. Believe me, it's going in, but there hasn't been another one since. In other words, look, are we near the finish of the marathon? Yes. Can we see the finish line? Yes. Are we hungry and dehydrated and getting cramps in our legs? Yes. Is the government capable of moving the finish line and suddenly it's another 5 kilometers up the road? Yes. Is it possible someone may blow up the finish line, and I choose that particular metaphor very specifically? I think everyone knows exactly what I'm referring to. Yes. And so people that are sitting back and thinking, well, this is just about done, and I don't need to do anything, are making a big mistake. When you are near the finish line is when you need to get it together. You need to get tough. You need to get some water in you, eat a banana, rub those legs, and finish the damn race. And the American people have been lulled into states of complacency and laziness. They have been conditioned to not act collectively like you're communist if 5 of you come together to support some cause. And as a result, they have a tendency to drop the ball, right? Just at the point they're about to slam dunk the damn thing. They're going in for the winning slam dunk with no time on the clock. And they have a reputation for dropping the ball and watching it dribble into the crowd. All I'm doing is getting tougher. I'm going to be speaking as tough as this to a lot of people. I'm just not going to sit there and allow this to happen without at least saying something. I want the American people to get off their goddamn ass and start supporting the most important activist movement in the world today and get this information out now before somebody blows up an American city with a tactical nuke. How much stronger can I state it than that? Because I assure you, when that happens, there will be no disclosure movement. There won't be any activist movements of any kind. There'll be mostly martial law, and we'll all sit in our living rooms, cowering in front of the TV, hoping to God that something worse doesn't happen, and doing anything the government wants. This is where we've been heading since the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution in 1964, when we started bombing the hell out of Southeast Asia. Now we're bombing the hell out of the Middle East. We've bombed 9 countries and 35 campaigns since 1955. We got so many enemies in the world they could form their own nation. This is the kind of stuff you're not hearing on NBC or ABC or MSNBC. This is the kind of stuff that Rachel Maddow won't tell you, even though she's making $9 million a year. This is what you're not going to hear from Bill O'Reilly, who's making $30 million a year, right? This is what you hear from activists on internet radio. That doesn't mean it's not true. It is true, right? But I'm not just screaming for nothing. We have a 20-year activist movement that's approaching possibly the end, the final, finish line. And for people to sit by and watch it and not do anything and say, well, I hope it finishes, I hope it works, that's just not going to cut it. So I'm telling people it's time to put up or shut up.
That's true. People always wait for someone else to do it. To me, it always comes down to what am I doing? What's my job? I really don't worry too much about what everybody else is doing because most people are sitting there waiting for, like Santa Claus, waiting for some Messiah to come and deliver the. And you're the disclosure Messiah, so they're waiting for you to deliver.
Grant, please don't use that term again. The point is, people are not being.
Well, that's the way they see it. That's the way people see it.
Well, they're making. Oh, I see what you mean.
They're saying that's Steve's job. When's Steve going to deliver? Like people don't, and that's maybe where maybe you need some real catastrophe to wake people up. Because as long as things are going well, nobody does anything. It's like usually it's that's why God created pains to wake people up to say something's wrong here, and then people start to wake up. But everybody's figuring it's going well. I got, the 2 cars and the big house and the kids are in university and now we need some entertainment. Tell me a UFO story. Tell me something interesting. And for a lot of people in the UFO field, that to me is what it's about. It's about just tell me an interesting UFO story. And, they're really not that committed when it comes to, protesting outside the White House in the 1990s. There was almost nobody there. It was like, it's an interesting. It's like watching sci-fi or stuff like that. Where in the 19th century, people had people come in and do mediums, bring talk to dead people and stuff for entertainment. And now we're the entertainment for a lot of people.
Well, look, catastrophe management has been the way for many millennia. Unfortunately, we no longer can do that anymore, thanks to our nuclear weapons. I mean, we invented nuclear power and nuclear weapons, and so we pretty much ruined the whole catastrophe management approach. That ain't going to work anymore, all right? And secondly, we're not asking people to climb up on the cross and sacrifice themselves in order to absolve the sins of the human race, right? They don't have to do that. All they have to do is we have developed an organized advocacy movement that has the power to finally force the heads of states of these countries to tell the truth. All they need is to financially support it. That's all. That's not lot, is it?
I'd like to reinforce this thing about the false flags. I was the shrink for one of the sailors that was on the navigation team in the boat that was supposedly attacked in the Gulf of Tonkin. He said they searched all over for several days to find a boat to engage. They found a North Vietnamese boat and chased it, and it escaped, but they reported that they were fired upon anyway. And the Boston Marathon, to which you alluded, Fessner has shown how one of the persons that supposedly had his legs blown off dropped. It was already an amputee. That there was the patsies, just like we had in the Kennedy assassination. I think that the educated American people know that the government creates false flags and lies so that they can control things. I think everybody knows it, but everybody's afraid to say something out loud. But you ain't, Steve, so I want to thank you.
Well, I appreciate the thanks, but let's be clear here. Not everything is a false flag. The Gulf of Tonkin was a lie. It was either a deliberate false flag or they took advantage of the lie in a false flag fashion and helped launch the Vietnam War. Utter evil, no question. Boston Marathon, I do not believe was a false flag. It sure as hell disrupted a lot of things, but I believe it was homegrown terrorists, the 2 Sinai boys, doing their thing, just like the ones in San Bernardino and just like the ones in Orlando. Now, that doesn't mean the government can't take advantage of them. The government doesn't have to blow up a marathon in order to use it to drive the what we call standard paranoia approach, and use it to drum up more support for more violence and bombing. Okay, but it's important to be clear. If something is not a false flag, it should not be called that, and if it is a false flag, it should be. So I have to disagree about the Boston Marathon. But it's pretty clear that San Bernardino and certainly Orlando were again, the acts of homegrown sympathizers to, quote, terrorists that are attacking the United States. Them against us, all right? And the sad thing about it is that it will be taken advantage of by politicians. It will be taken advantage of by warmongers. And as a number of pretty sharp pundits have pointed out, that is exactly what ISIS and ISIS sympathizers want them to do. You know, it's as if they sent them an engraved invitation. I just killed 50 people. For God's sakes, invade Syria. And the government goes, oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what we're going to do. If that's what you want, that's what we're going to do. Right? But high school kids could figure this out. It's not that complicated. But these people are so locked in to their standard ways of doing business. Right? There's no new blood. There's no new vision. We elect dinosaurs. We elect people that are half dead before they even walk into the halls of Congress. Right? And as a result, we simply can't change. We can't make changes. We need a massive catalyst to change. We have the most powerful catalyst in the history, known modern history. The formal acknowledgement of the
how do we prevent the nukes? How do we prevent this? Take us there logically. Take us in this dance. So we can't.
Oh, we can't. We can't. The current situation cannot stop it. Inevitable. The only thing that could possibly prevent much of what's coming would be disclosure, because it's such a paradigm shift that it literally takes everybody to a new place where they have to recalculate their worldview and their actions and their intentions. And with that recalculation, they may make different decisions. That's the only thing we've got. I mean, what are we going to do? We're going to write some positive self-help book and drop 1 million copies over the Middle East from airplanes, and hope they read them? I don't think. Right?
So what can we do to push it over the edge? What can we do to, say we get all the money you need, what can we do to push the disclosure and grant you get all the money you need and whatever? What can we do to push it over the edge?
Stephen Greer has recently raised about $400,000 to create a documentary, which will probably impact. And that documentary will come out sometime next spring. We could easily have a terrorist attack before next spring. PRG, right, on the other hand, is virtually got the media on the edge of maybe launching this issue into the presidential campaign. I can't raise $3,000. Right? And so what I'm saying is, I think we got Greer funded. How about funding PRG here? I need more money. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm doing something different field. That documentary is needed, but we need to get because once if Clinton wins the White House, once she gets into the White House in January, she can bunker up, and we may never see the light of day. Oh, I've got her on record now, and PRG has forced her on record and Podesta on record numerous times, and so that will make it a little easier to put pressure. But then once you're president, you can say, I just got so much on the plate. It's just so much. There's national security issues.
What do we do? Can we bombard her with letters and emails? Like Hillary keeps writing to me, I write back. I go, okay, Hillary, somebody's. It doesn't bounce. Somebody might be looking at it. Yeah, it's a real address.
We have bombarded them with over 4 million tweets, Twitter messages to Congress, the White House. They've been bombarded. There's hundreds of articles. They read the articles. They know. They know.
What about bombarding Hillary? Tell her to honor her word.
She has somebody else read her mail for her. She didn't read it. What we need is we need the funding so that PRG can drive this thing over the finish line. I need to be in Washington. I need to be hitting the media harder. I need to be traveling when needed. I need to continue to build the media coalition that's ultimately going to force her to respond in the Rockefeller mission.
I need $400,000. I could do it with another 15. 40 would be nice, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But that's what I'm doing. My
listening.
job is to get disclosure, not to make another documentary, though one day I might. My job is to get disclosure right now. Not make a documentary for next year. Get disclosure right now.
Grant, what are your ideas? I know you're.
Well, I would agree that Steve needs funding because he's been the main catalyst in this thing. Behind the scenes, he's probably influenced a lot more people in Washington than we know of. So, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, my only thing is what I can do, and I have made my moves to try to contact these White House reporters to ask the briefing question, which I think ends it. I mean, if they ask the president the briefing question, something's going to happen because that's never been asked.
Depends what his answer is, Grant.
But he's going if he hesitates because Obama has never denied the thing. He's always tried to walk around it. Bill Clinton just straight out lies. But Obama has always tried to, walk around it, and that's why I'm saying now what's changed in the last month is that the attitude of the media, that they realize this thing's probably for real. There was no little, none of the articles that are coming out have got the little green men stuff in it anymore. Even the New York Times thing was like a pretty straight piece. And sort of like that was a major piece. When you get the New York Times doing a piece and it's pretty straight, then that's when all the rest of the media sort of woke up and went, well, whoa. So that's my sort of pressure. And I rely on John Podesta because when the thing sort of died off, because Obama didn't have a news conference, so the story sort of died, and Podesta brings it up again at this San Francisco conference, where then he talks about black budget, that it should go to this stuff should go to the people, the information, rather than to the black program. So every time it slows down a bit, Podesta winds it up, and that's what I always remind people is that Hillary really had nothing to do with this. Hillary has answered 3 questions. It's John Podesta who is pushing this issue. And I have no context with Podesta, but he's a major figure that I don't think is going to let this thing die. He's got it going, and he's sort of built a box now where Obama is going to be facing a question, which may have been his intent was to create a situation where this thing gets elevated to the White House in a news conference.
Look, it's all right. You're close. Remember, Podesta is not just operating for himself. He is the campaign chairman for Hillary Clinton. His job is to get her elected. And he's not going to do anything that could harm her prospect to be elected, which raises the question, why is he saying these things?
Well, he must have put it in a focus group. He had to have put it in a focus group, or he must have pulled it. He never would have brought up the issue. I insist. He could not have brought up the issue unless he had done a focus group and realized this was no longer a toxic issue, because all they're going for is swing voters. You're not really worried about the Democrats or the Republicans. You're going after the swing voters, and he must have put this in front of swing voters, and that's exactly what's happened. There has not been the backlash that there was when Kucinich had faced the issue in 2008. So it's no longer a toxic issue, and the media is picking up on that as well, that you can ask a question and not get your White House press pass pulled.
All right, there's something you need to know, Grant, and I'll take responsibility for this because I have not been calling you up and giving you personal briefings on what's going on in Washington. I send out my press releases to everybody. You see what everybody else sees. But I haven't done that. Maybe I should. Maybe I should go to a greater effort to keep you, particularly and Richard Dolan, tighter into what I'm doing. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. Let me tell you what is going on. All right, John Podesta has not run this by a focus group. 2, he is not doing this in order to get the UFO vote. I guarantee you that. The reason that John Podesta is saying anything now during this campaign, the reason he did the tweet in 2015 when he left office, the reason that Hillary spoke to Conway Daily Sun is because when I arrived in Washington, D.C. on November of 2014 with about $40,000, I brought my publicist involved, and she started going after the media, and I started going up on the Hill and interviewing people in Congress. We started generating print action. We had breakthroughs at the Roll Call newspaper on the Hill. We had breakthroughs at Mother Jones, a number of articles in Washington Times. But what people don't know is that behind those articles that were being written, by the way, you know who the principal source was on the New York Times article? It was me. I'm the one that sat down with Amy Chozick at the New York Times offices and briefed her for an hour.
Now, obviously, that wasn't still a feature of the piece. I wasn't expected to be. The point is that we have PRG, along with this publication, has worked its butt off for 18 months. And we are driving this media. But what most people don't know is behind those articles, reporters of these print media are sending questions to Clinton and Podesta about the Rockefeller Initiative. And they can't answer that yet, and so they are stonewalling those questions. But they know that every time they refuse to respond to a reporter, they are increasing the pressure. But they're taking that risk because they are trying to buy some time and see where things go. This is a very complicated chess game, but I can assure you it's not about getting votes. It's about having Hillary Clinton still become president, regardless of which way this issue goes. He is talking because he has to. She is talking because she has to. And the reason she has to is PRG is driving media at them every single month. And they're not ready to answer these questions. When Amy Chozick wrote her article, she stated matter-of-factly, she asked Podesta to comment, and he did not return her phone call. That is what is going on. PRG has generated this media, has generated the pressure, and the reason it's able to do it is because you, Grant Cameron, took on the presidential issue. That was your choice. And along the way, you made a beautiful strategic decision to go after the OSTP document. And because it wasn't under the Presidential Records Act, which was corrected by Bush, you got 1,000 pages back. And while nobody would touch them initially, 15 years later, those pages, those documents, which I recently delivered a complete set for the New York Daily News, are going to be the trigger that ultimately forced Clinton to respond to the question in session. It is that response.
We're out of time. Oh my God, we'll have to get back to you. Thank you very much, Grant and Stephen.
Thanks you.
And hang on for 2 seconds and we'll wrap this up off the air.